Jai Sachidanand, welcome. So we are very well acquainted, introduced with today's speaker. Shailaben conducted previously a very influential session on holistic life skills. So after fortnight, our today's topic is positive outlook. It is required because the present times is really there are thick, dark clouds of negativity everywhere. And it is really very prone to be irritated, frustrated, to lose temper, to be in negative emotions quickly. That is why Dadaji knew this very well. So he discussed a very long in the form of question and answers on this topic, positive outlook. So I invite today's speaker, uh, Ms. Shailaben Mulji ma'am, cordial welcome to you. Jai Sachidanand. Over to you now, please. And let this session be interactive as previously. We enjoy a lot. Okay. So participants, you should be ready either to discuss or to read the screen, please. Huh? Thank you very much. Shailaben, over to you.
Okay, Jai Sachidanand, everybody. So nice to see all of you here. I do appreciate the opportunity to share. We're here to learn together and invoking the presence of our divine Param Pujya Shri Kanu Dadaji, Dada Bhagwan, and Simandar Swamiji, and Vitrag Sashan Dev Devio, Nispakshpati Sashan Dev Devio. So just wanted to like Chandrakanji so graciously said, please do engage. As he mentioned, in our world today, everything we hear and see is somewhat to our humanity is shocking. We are experiencing some very turbulent things at this time on our planet, things that pull at our heartstrings, that make us wonder where humanity is going. So hopefully this session will help each of us to find some clarity as far as what are the possible causes of such things happening in our world, and how can we maintain our positive outlook and contribute through our presence and our roles that we play, something to help elevate not only ourselves, but also others as well. So I'm just going to move forward here. And thank you, Nehaben, Chandrakanji, as well as Raniben, for putting together this presentation. I have slightly put in some interjections, but I don't like to change the presentations because I believe that you had some purpose in each of the slides that you've put into it and what you're trying to share with the group. So, all right. On positive outlook, would someone like to read the quote that was translated originally in Gujarati, but was translated based upon what Dada Bhagwan had mentioned with regards to positive outlook? May I have a volunteer to read, please?
May I please, Jai Sachidanand?
Jai Sachidanand. Mukundji, Jai Sachidanand.
Jai Sachidanand. Our goal should be to look at everything in a positive manner. The world has both positive and negative forces. Sometime or the other, it will convert negative into positive. On our part, why not remain positive from the start? Dada Bhagwan. Jai Sachidanand. Should I read the toxic positivity?
Sure. Yes, please. Yes, thank you.
Toxic positivity. That is, being negative won't help you. Good vibes only. You'll get over it. Other people have it a lot worse. Smile, crying won't help. The last one, I'm not able to read it because
Just stay positive, it is.
Just stay positive.
then the next one is genuine optimism. It is important to let it out. Is there anything I can't do to make this easier for you? I love you through all your emotions, emotional states. You are
So resilient.
and your strength will get you through it. You are not alone, and there is support to help you. It's
Okay to cry.
sorry.
It's okay to
It's
cry.
okay to cry. We all do.
Yeah.
Can I get you a tissue or a bag? The last one I cannot.
Okay, I
Tune.
will. Okay, Mukunji. Things
Thank you.
are tough right now. Do you want to talk about it or do something light-hearted? My goodness, very lovely. Shailaben, my God,
Well,
amazing.
this is just to illustrate that, we being positive, like Rani ji had done this presentation
Yeah.
on our last session, and she had mentioned that there's no reason to push positivity on other people, but rather validate their presence and whatever they're going through, and be an active listener so that we can respond rather than react to what someone might be going through. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes,
I
of
just
course.
wanted,
Makes sense.
yeah, I just wanted to put that in there because it can be really frustrating if you're going through something very difficult and somebody is just trying to push you out of the situation rather than hold your hand through it. So very important to not become toxic about being positive. There was a lot of verbiage on these slides, so I wanted to just give a little brief summary under each one, just to help us stay focused on the content. The presentations that I've done throughout my life, there is very little verbiage on each slide, but I felt that there was a reason why you had the verbiage there. So that's why I'm just going with that flow. Okay. Chandakaji, would you like to read the first slide?
Yeah. Should I read?
Yes, please.
All spiritual practitioners, as they progress on the right path, develop keen awareness of everything happening around them. But like other lay people, they do not brood over negative observations which they make. Forward facing, presently focused vision. A mind which broods over negativity develops fault finding habits, turns into a gutter inspector, a cynic, and wherever they go, they find out what is wrong with the people or a situation. Never happy. Conversation usually turns negative. Recipe for dis-ease, emotional trauma, and confusion. Wow. Here is a picture called growth. I can learn from my mistakes. Mindset. I can improve by working hard. I'll never give up I'm determined to do my best. Self, I think this color is
It's
not
very difficult to read.
help me succeed. I can overcome challenges with effort. I can train my brain. Wonderful. Thank you, Jai Sachidanand.
Jay Sachidanand, thank you. So basically, alluding to the path that we're on and the fact that we do believe in reincarnation. And so whatever is happening in our lives, our goal is to be able to elevate our consciousness and bring it to a place where we can find even the tiniest bit of serenity within ourselves so that we don't run into that negativity that it's like a downward spiral. It goes down and you can't get out of that vortex. So it's very important to cultivate just being observant of our own minds and becoming the master slowly is the real goal of our own mind so that we don't get pulled into these negative vortexes because like Chandrakanji was saying, there is more negativity than positivity out in the world at the present time. What comes to mind for me is all here in the United States, all the colleges, starting with Columbia, where the students are demonstrating against what is happening right now, a genocide of innocent people. And, even with Dadaji's Gnan, it's not easy to just find some inner resolution about it. And so it restores your faith in humanity to see people like they did during the Vietnam War, when apartheid was in South Africa, that young people are keenly aware of their humanity. So if we can turn our focus towards what is actually being done rather than just being in shock and sad about what is actually transpiring in our world and using our voice whenever we can. A typical case in a party or dinner where there would be innocent talk on what is wrong with politicians, economy, armaments, lifestyle of young generation, recession, labor, global scenarios, or any other difficulty in business. All of this would end in long talks without any benefit. So, and this is just kind of continuing from the last slide. This is what ends up happening if we allow ourselves to get pulled into negative vortexes and not have healthy boundaries for ourselves. So the key point is to set healthy boundaries and know when to gracefully remove yourself, not in a jarring or in a way that's rude or inconsiderate of others, but to mentally be able to insulate ourselves from getting pulled into discussions and saying things that are not in our best interest spiritually or socially. Would anyone like to read the next slide, please?
Jai Sachidanand, may I?
Yes, please.
Brooding over negativity or opening ourselves against too much negativity ultimately weakens the mental defense, and one tends to develop a centerless personality trying to please others at all time. Key point: people pleasing is a disease based on lack of self-esteem. 6 things mentally strong people do. Number 1, they move on. They don't waste time feeling sorry for themselves. Number 2, They embrace change. They welcome challenges. Number 3, they stay happy. They don't waste energy on things they can't control. Number 4, they are kind, fair, and unafraid to speak up. Number 5, they are willing to take calculated risks. Number 6, they celebrate other people's success. They don't resent that success. Thank you, Jai Sachidanand.
Thank you, Mukundji. So, being raised in the Indian culture, we are taught to be gracious. And so finding that very fine line where it isn't in our best interest to always say yes and learn how to gracefully say no is definitely an inner journey and part of our introspective journey and ability to know our own mind and our own heart in order to be able to set those very subtle boundaries with everybody in our life to allow us to graciously be able to say no to something that might not be in our best interest. So I've been a victim of this in my own life. And the only time we actually become aware of it is when we are so depleted that we don't have anything positive to offer other people. And that's a sure sign that perhaps we need to set more healthy boundaries. Okay. And that definitely does wear on our positive outlook, because having a positive outlook has to first start with number one. And we always have to keep that in our focus. And all of these presentations kind of are like a tapestry. They all weave themselves into each other. That's what I really like about this series, is that our topics are very, holistically speaking, they're all very interwoven with each other. Okay. This is a very long slide. I'm going to read it. Key point: develop awareness about the many positive things happening around us without broad vision to truly see we have little to motivate us. Many saintly persons help people to develop personal and interpersonal disciplines around the world. Hundreds of social workers who are running schools, hospitals, orphanages, old age homes are on our planet now and constantly working. Improvement in condition of roads and telephones, long distance calls, medical facilities, healthy foods, development of parks and gardens and traffic islands, music schools, dance dramas, and host of public utility services, which have filled important gaps in many areas of our lives in the last 20 or 20 years. So I think this slide was more about what has transpired in India, particularly in the last 3 decades or so, about 30 years. There has been tremendous advancement as far as not having as much poverty, having access to more resources, to be able to educate on a more mass level. There has been tremendous progress. And I think keenly being aware of that and how we can support that is a way to develop awareness and get involved and use our free time when we can to contribute whatever is available to us as far as resources and time to support the many people who are doing everything they can, who do live within their values and their morals and are sincere. Sadly, we live in a world that a lot of our wealth is controlled by the global corporate markets, and hence a lot of our world is what is being put out in the world that we hear on a constant basis is surrounding corporate greed, and hence we don't always hear about all these wonderful people that are actually working day and night, not only to support their own families, but also to uplift and help others in their communities and countries at large. Would someone like to read the next slide?
Yes, please. Jai Sachidanand.
Jai Sachidanand. Mukunji, you're muted.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
No doubt, everything new which happens brings its own problems, like airplanes which cut short travel times are subject to delays, sometimes disasters, but mind must constantly meditate on its utility, especially while traveling to faraway countries. Key point: expecting positive outcomes rather the worst is the key to cultivating a positive outlook. Thank you. Jai Sachidanand.
Jai Sachidanand. You know, because whenever something tragic happens, it gets broadcasted throughout the world. And with the internet, we hear about all these shocking things constantly. And it's almost like our brains learn to expect the worst outcome rather than projecting and expecting positive outcomes, more helpful, creative ways to support, rather than, if say you are traveling far, far away in an airplane, well, obviously you're going for a reason. So, taking a moment to acknowledge all the people who have put together that plane, have come together to get all the luggage put in, all the people who work at the desks that are checking people in and processing tickets and solving problems, the pilot and the air stewards, just acknowledging, taking a few moments to do that, can be a huge shift in your outlook, rather than, oh my God, do you remember when that one plane went down in 1976, in South America, and they were stuck out in the snow for, 4 weeks or 4 months, and X number percentage of them survived. That is really not the way to embark upon our journey with a specific mindset. So I always like to, anything that is happening, is set an intention within us about anything that we endeavor. Like, for example, our intention for these sessions is to help each other to find more clarity, find ideas, to help us to cultivate some of these wonderful holistic life skills that Dada Bhagwan had lived his life with, that Kanu Dadaji had lived his life with. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. Anybody have any comments, anything to add, any ideas, thoughts? Okay. So we need a shift and emphasize positivity. There's a typical case of house servants who provide very useful service for 90% of the times, making it possible. And this is mainly in the third world countries, in India, like India and Pakistan and some of the other countries out there where you do have access to, we don't call them servants here, we call them, housekeepers or people who come to help. So a luxurious lifestyle, parties, dinners, receptions, our afternoon shopping, gossiping, but how little a portion of our time with friends is spent on talking good things about them. For example, even if you were to go to a restaurant, instead of focusing on what they didn't do for us or how late they were or the things they didn't do, focusing on what they did do right, I think it changes the whole vibration of that experience. And how much time do we get to talk to our housekeepers with a smile and compassion, and the interest we take in their life and what may be some of their challenges? So taking time to acknowledge the presence of others who we think maybe have a life that is not as significant or as important as ours, which is ridiculous, really, when we think about that. Honestly, you can't put a value on human life. Every human life is so precious. So the slums where, I remember in Mumbai when I was visiting, people would be like this in their rickshaws, going by Mandra district or any of those slums, which provide the most needed services without present lifestyle becomes miserable. So just taking time to acknowledge all of those who dedicate so much of their life, and they have families, they have fathers, mothers, daughters, sisters, brothers, they have everything we do in their lives. So just key point is, despite luxuries and sensory pleasures, cultivate a heart full of compassion and genuine concern. And I think having what we have that we're also learning about as far as holistic science and the key points of cultivating a healthy mind and healthy body helps us to become more human. And that's really how we cultivate a heart full of compassion and genuine concern. Would someone like to read the next slide?
Jai Sachidanand.
Jai Sachidanand Mukherjee.
Riots, wars, political unrest, natural calamities like famines, epidemics, earthquake, cyclone, floods have been happening to mankind since time immemorial. During the same time, great spiritual masters like Mahavir, Buddha, and Jesus, men of art and literature, great musicians and sculptors, brilliant scientists are also praised. Contribution can be made to relief work in the aftermath of riots. Key point: person should continuously train their mind to engage in activities, mental and physical, which help them better to get a holistic understanding of the world around us. Jai Sachidanand.
Jai Sachidanand. Thank you for correcting my grammar there. And getting back to, the point that even when Jesus was around, or Gautam Buddha, Mahavir Bhagwan, the world has always been having some aspect of duality, and it will always have that. We happen to be in a time cycle where it's kind of in an extreme state. In Satyug, when Sita and Ram's time, 10,000 years ago was different, where people there wasn't as much conflict. Right now, I think conflict is heading towards its pinnacle. So just even understanding the time cycle helps us to have a little bit more balance within us and be able to stay in our center and not get derailed by the things that we hear and see, which to some extent are designed to do that, the way that they're broadcasted. So having even that awareness that, how do I need to view things when they happen? Not with a mindset that, oh, those people deserved it. No, not at all. But more, how can I send out, whatever positive prayer I have while I'm watching or seeing something, contributing whatever I have from within me with the tools and resources I have to help that situation be alleviated. So, and I don't like to always say prayer, because in some aspects, we're always praying. From the moment we wake up, we're intending. That's how our human self is designed. We're born that way. A baby wants, from the time it wakes up, it wants comfort, wants milk, wants its mother, wants to, be comfortable and not have a wet diaper. I mean, this is a human condition. And so just understanding that we are intending from the moment we wake up. And my favorite tool that Dada Bhagwan gave us is to, 5 times in the morning and 10, that with the mind, speech, body, let there not be any pain, and even in the slightest bit to any living being. Just articulating that for yourself to hear your own self helps us to kind of harness in what is our purpose? Why are we here? Are we here to destroy each other and hurt each other? No, not at all. That's not our purpose, why we're here on this planet. So every single satsadhan that Dada has given us is so powerful. And mainly because it has been given by a Satpurush, by a Gnani, by an enlightened being. So those are the tools that help me stay centered. We are all human beings, and anything like that, employing empathy. We talked about empathy and not automatically judging a situation, I think is very important as well. This is a great example that I am not privy to. I'm not sure where it came from, but it was in the slides. Garbage to garden soil. So one enlightened industrialist meditated on the impermanence, anitya, of garbage and could see that it could change to garden soil under certain conditions. Nature required 40 days of silence and undisturbed work to produce this vital change. And this individual did this. I'm not sure who this industrialist is, so I cannot give credit, but they did include that this is a classic example of awareness of negativity with a positive outlook. So can anyone think of an example of where a situation seemed very, very bleak, but they were able to, with a positive outlook and a positive mindset, be able to be a conduit, an instrument to where that situation was able to turn around? Does anyone have an example in their life where it seemed like, the worst was coming, but with employing a positive outlook, they were able to help that situation to become something positive? I do have several, but I wanted to share one. There, my oldest son's best friend, when he was only 21, we found out that he was diagnosed with cancer of the intestines. And within 6 weeks, he passed, and he passed away on Easter Sunday morning. So my son's mom was one of my best friends as well. And we were all both very involved with the schools, the children, the students as moms. And so when I found out, I immediately called her, and I hadn't seen her in 4 years because we had moved, but she was so delighted and so grateful for the call. And so it turned into, and they're Christians. So this situation, although it was sad, tragic, a 21-year-old son, the oldest grandchild of 8 children in a family, had passed. It became a celebration of his life. And they were asked me to go and speak on the Gita. And there was, 500 people there, people I hadn't seen in many years. But what I was so impressed by, because of their belief in Jesus, this whole family, not one time did anybody say that Jordan had been taken from them. Everybody, including the grandparents, had said that he was being received, because these were people of deep faith. And so it turned into a celebration. My son was away at school. He couldn't be there, and so I was asked to speak. but it turned into a celebration of life and a very joyous celebration. And I can't put into words the experience of being there and watching people with such deep faith. And I think at the end of the day, our faith sustains us. And so we should never, never let go of our faith. Whatever we believe in, hold on to it. So that's one example that I can share of where something negative was able to become something positive. And she did create a foundation in his honor because he was somebody who really valued education. So she started a foundation in his honor. So really wonderful story. Would someone like to read? This is a very long slide as well. It's a lot of words.
Can I try?
Yeah,
Please do.
Okay, Jai Sachidanand ma'am.
Jai Sachidanand, Kokila ji.
Okay, if someone important person is talked about as corrupt, we compare ourselves with him in our subconscious mind and conclude that we are not like him, giving up fault, finding failure. If somebody is arrogant, we again connect ourselves and say that I am not like him. Celebrate the goal of becoming better. When a house servant driver or a sanitographer is changed, we immediately compare some poor quality of new members with good quality of old staff and say that old one was better, although good qualities of good staff, and say that one old was better, although we know well that when that man or woman was in our employment. It really happens, ma'am, in our day-to-day life. Always we compare ourselves better. When we lose the better, we compare with what we are having now. After losing, actually, it is the example is really uh, sorry. Actually, I was going to give example of my life, but after reading, I will tell. Okay.
No, please do. That's what we're here for. We're here to share. Thank you.
Actually, when we lose one good person after we are having in our life, it is in our day-to-day life what we are having. We always compare with the better, and present we always give them. We regret that why we are having this person after we lose the better. Okay.
That's true. Very true.
We know well that when that man or woman was even is our employment. Never notice that good quality, or if we notice, we never praise. Take time to encourage and compliment others. So it is the cause with our criticism or practically everyone whom we know. Someone speaks too much, someone speaks too little, someone is not smart or over smart. Extra arrogant, measure, systematic,
Chaotic.
uh, chaotic, selfish, over ambitious, a long line of qualities. Criticism goes on and on with only occasional reference to some good qualities of any human being. Train your mind to see virtualities in others.
Very well.
Thank you, ma'am.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Did you want to share your experience?
Yes, in our college life, we had many friends. So many of them used to speak positive and some speak negative. After 20 to 25 years, now we are getting reunion. So we talk about everyone positive and negative. So now we are after age at this age, we train our mind to see the virtualities in others. That the time that we spent together, we didn't realize that that was the precious time. Now after so many years, we compare our lives. That so busy we are that now we are not getting time. After 25 years, also we don't get time to say hello or that. So this is the time that time we were complaining to each other that she is that and she is so. And actually, the time. Okay, sorry, ma'am, if I am not clear what I want to say.
No, you're very clear. You're
Hello.
very clear. And correct me if I'm wrong, you're basically saying that, as the
Ah,
years go by, we
yes,
get nostalgic and we want to have the times that we had in the past because we realize how sweet they were.
so busy we are in day to day life. So busy we are that we can't spend uh, time to even talk to each other.
Exactly. Exactly. And that getting back to what I was saying in the beginning
Ah,
about the global corporate initiative, like the internet has opened up the world for us, but at the same token, it's taking away a lot of our humanity because people are glued to their electronic devices, and the global corporate market is trying to hijack our minds. Our
yes, yes.
minds, our psyches are constantly being bombarded by radio waves, telephone waves, cell phone waves. There's noise that we do not hear with our physical ears that is hitting our psyches on a constant basis. So this is why it becomes so important to be keenly aware of our inner world and take time for ourselves to meditate, to connect with our heart, to know our minds, and be able to keep our priorities in the right order. Because unless we know our priorities in our life, we cannot know our purpose. Our purpose
Okay. Yes,
becomes completely derailed. Does that make sense, Kokilaji?
yes, yes. Thank you, ma'am, for explaining it very well.
Okay, thank you for sharing. I'm so glad you did, and you speak very well. I know
Okay.
English is challenging for you all, so I really appreciate you taking your
Actually,
time
I
to
have
do
done
that.
bachelor in English medium, but in day-to-day life after marriage, I am housewife 100%. So all studies and all are.
Yes. That's wonderful. It's wonderful. Thank
So,
you for sharing. Thank you.
okay, Jai Sachidanand, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, Satchidanand. So going along with the same line of thinking, the connection, the comparison, the criticism actually creates a psychological defect in our brains, and it accumulates over time, where the inner world was unattended and it was allowed to develop as it wanted to. So basically, what results is a wasteland that's grown inside our own psyche that has weeds that are overgrown, and many of them even poisonous to our own well-being as well as to well-being of others. So the essence of that is keep our own home of our inner world clean. And fortunately, as you know, we are all Desis here. We have so many tools available to us. Whether we are Vaishnav, Shiv, or Jain, it doesn't matter. We all have tools because India is full of spirituality. And so, whatever tools help us to keep our inner world clean, to keep our hearts clear, and have clarity of our purpose, and have positive relationships with those that are closest to us, which is the most important ones, we definitely want to utilize those. When I think of this particular point, here in the US, a lot of schools are embracing at young ages, when kids are in kindergarten or even younger, teaching them yoga and meditation. because so many youth are experiencing mental health crises here in the United States, especially with COVID. So many organizations have adopted yoga and meditation in classrooms, and they're training the teachers as well. So I see that as a huge positive because it's very helpful. And allowing these kids at an early age to connect with their inner world, I think is wonderful. And I know in India, those are already practices that are taking place. And we think about in India, more than half of the 1.4 billion now, 1.2 billion are, under the age of 18. So it's such a tremendous opportunity to train the future generations. So, I know there's a lot of initiatives to educate the youth in India, and I know you all are a huge part of that. So I give you lots of appreciation for that and acknowledgement for that role. The psychological defects that do not allow us to know and experience the bright side of human beings who live in our locality, city, and country. The real world is full of brilliant people with great qualities of head and heart, talents of a good administrator, musician, scientist, clerk, a peon, worker, etc. We don't use the word peon in the Western world because it's offensive to even say that word. Just saying, because it's negative. So we try to utilize words that are more empowering, that even when we're referring to people in their roles, we don't say they're an employee, we say they're a teammate, just to make it more positive. So the essence of this one for me is we become what we see in others. If we see negative in others, then that's just a reflection of what's negative in us. And so we try to cultivate more and more seeing the virtues in other people. None of us, we're all on the road together, and it's a constant effort that we must engage in from within. There are hundreds of brave and courageous people who can sort out the mess. There are dedicated and obedient people who execute the plans made by intelligent people. So keeping our faith in humanity and our fellow humans. And this goes back to, for me, in my heart, I'm celebrating those students who are out there at those universities bravely, giving up their graduations, their education opportunities to speak out in the face of what is happening in the Gaza Strip right now. To me, it's not acceptable as a human being. It's sad. It's horrible. It's perpetuating an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Like Gandhi said, it's not acceptable what is happening. And I'm glad that there are people in positions of power and even positions of non-power who are taking the time to use their voices to speak out against what is happening over there. Not being on any side, but just on the side of humanity. There are good police officers, good businessmen, good teachers, good servants, good relatives, and good friends. That being said, we do need to acknowledge and express gratitude daily, but also we can't keep a blind eye. And sadly, we live in a world where we have to always be very, very alert and aware and listen to our gut, listen to our intuition, because just because someone is in a role doesn't mean we can assume that they're always in that role positively. So always being grounded, practical. We're likely to miss a lot of the positive things that are happening if we constantly allow ourselves to be swallowed up by negativity. And so we need to be picky about what we let into our inner world. We might read an article or hear something in the news, and then, immediately the mind is such that it goes down into the rabbit hole and gives this whole analysis and assessment. We may not even have the facts. It may not even be true, or it may not be reported exactly like it should be. But sadly, we all have this mechanism, the antakaran, like that we talked about, our intellect, our reflective consciousness, our own experiences, opinions, and we immediately create an assessment about it. So what we choose to keep within our psyche, that's why we engage, we meditate. We meditate regularly on our eternal value systems to help us discern, to have that discernment, to be able to keep our vision clear and aware of positivity and diversity in the fields. So it all comes back to mastering our mind. And, that whole caption we had on the Antakaran, knowing what our intellect is showing us, the pros and cons, because that's what intellect does. You're spending your valuable time here on a Saturday evening for you all, morning for us. And what is your purpose? Why are you here? Because we do want to overcome a lot of the neuroses that we have carried for infinite lives. And it all comes back to being able to master the mind. Eventually, a small world of high-class positive people in the various fields develop around us, a world within, an oasis in the desert. I've really delved deep into Dadaji's science, and one of my own discoveries from my own experience is the real company that we keep is not necessarily who is just around us. It's who we keep in our heart center. Who is sitting in our heart center? And that's why knowing your heart is so important, because I know people where I can see that they are so negatively affected by who they keep in their heart. And they don't even realize it, so it's so important. Knowing our heart is a huge priority, and be careful who you allow inside your heart. And, Nani Purush always says that it's only you and he, no one else. If you are on the path of liberation, there should be no one else there besides you and the Gnani Purush, which, is not always that easy to accomplish. But I try to hold myself to that standard. I like the attitude is a little thing that makes a huge difference. So even a slight shift can change our whole day. You cannot have a positive life with a negative mind. There's so many people are aware of the negativity, and people are making efforts to try to overcome that. Chandrakanti, would you be so kind and read the next slide?
Yeah. It requires prolonged, continuous effort. At times, there are frustrations, but if we keep on, we succeed. Never give up. We experience this great eternal truth that changing ourselves changes the world around us and catalyzes that portion which is away from us. Profound truth. Again, in the truthfulness of our vision, we will see many like us who are changing within by following different techniques and still achieving the good results. Timeless principles do work. This will be the last and final vision to see the world in all its positive diversity, radical acceptance. My God, wonderful. Should I read the pictures also?
Yes, please.
If you are positive, you'll see opportunities instead of obstacles, says Confucius. For every minute you are angry, you lose 60 seconds of happiness. Ralph Waldo Emerson. My God. Wonderful. Huh? Thank you.
Jay Satchidanand, thank you. Ganudadaji would quote a lot of famous poets, like Shakespeare and Emerson, and he was, as a Gnani, he gave us so much. And one of the books that he shared is Sophie's World, If anybody has a chance to look it up, it's the journey of this young girl where she meets a Menchia, an enlightened being who takes her down through from the Greek time of the Greek philosophers all the way to the present time with all the different philosophies and religions and schools of thought. It's just a wonderful, wonderful book. If anybody has a chance to look into it, it's like going down that path yourself. And because Ganu Dadaji recommended it, I did read it, and it was such a wonderful experience as someone who has been initiated by Dadaji to be able to have that vision of the last history of all the philosophers. So, but radical acceptance is critical, and it starts with ourselves. When we radically accept who we are, our lives, what the tools we've been given by Mother Nature, the way we look, the way we speak, the parents we have, the siblings we have, our background, our education, where we live. When we radically accept that, it allows us to really internally open up so much space, and mainly in our hearts. So it functions to help us open our hearts. Has been my own experience. It is difficult these days for people who are in the imaginations of the future, worrying, afraid of so many odd happenings, living with tense nerves or in memories of the past, either with stored hurts or glorifying the past, to develop faculty of observation. So devote time for the inner world. And as I was mentioning, our media is if you guys remember during President Bush's shock and awe, that's really the philosophy of the media these days. And because it's a lot about ratings. So don't allow yourself to be shocked and awed. Rather, decide for yourself that you want to live in the present moment. You want to live your best life and become the best version of yourself, so that your end result, your outcome at the end of your life is what you intended your goal to be. Okay. Unfortunately, a lot of people's minds are preoccupied with unpleasant past or uncertain future. It's not that people don't want to have a better life. It's what is being served up to them, what they hear, what they see. It's a very effective world. People want to be happier. They want a new perspective. And it's part of our mission as the Holistic Research Foundation to be able to serve that up to the world, to Dada Bhagwan's holistic science, to be able to present that to the world in a way that is easily understandable. So as we empty our minds, Jai Sachidanand Lalabai Sahib, Jai Sachidanand, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Please carry on.
Okay, so if we take the time to empty our minds, really cleanse our minds, find resolution with the things that happen to us, and each of us on a regular basis, I'm sure, have things happen that are very unexpected. I had a discussion with Ganu Dadaji in April in Moore Park about the theory of the chaotic, the scientists that he spoke to about the studies that NASA was doing on the chaotic theory. There's an entire project dedicated to this. And those are the times that we're living in. So we have been so blessed with this incredibly divine vision that allows us to find our center. We do lose it, but we're able to find it because we've been graced. And so as we continue to find resolution in our minds with regular meditation, engaging in discussions and devotion, we can make observations about ourselves as well as about our family members that we live in and our staff members that we work with, that allow us to realize that everybody is perfect as they are in the world that we are in right now. And if we can cultivate that vision, it has been honestly a personal experience. I was thrown back into the corporate world these last few years. Since the pandemic, we don't have a business anymore. So I was thrown back into the corporate world. And as I walked into this office, there was very young people. And I could see that their minds were highly influenced by the material world. However, over the course of these last few years, just by constantly focusing on their positive qualities and encouraging, I have seen such a tremendous development in our work as a team. And, you know, these principles really do work. Dada Bhagwan's science, it works. And it gives you so much joy and peace in your heart to know, even in the smallest ways, that we can, just by our presence and allowing Dada to work through us, we can make even our smallest little difference in the world. It's very empowering to have that anubhav. So making mindfulness a new habit, you know, being present no matter where we are, whatever situation, no matter how bleak it might seem, I have found it does make a huge difference. And if anybody has a story they can share, you know, I welcome you to share those stories, because that's what helps us to continue on this path and continue taking that inner journey to that space where non-duality lives, our center. I see some things in the chat. I'm sorry, I'm not able to keep up here, but I just want to make sure. Oh, okay, just very nice. Oh, yeah, I'll share that. I will share the name of the book. Thank you. Would someone like to read the next slide, please?
Jai Sachidanand.
Jai Sachidanand Mukherjee. Thank you.
What is the purpose of speed breakers on road? It is for your safety. Likewise, obstacles or difficulties are like speed breakers. Otherwise, one may have to face an accident because of high speeds. Obstacles help to live with normality. Key point: cultivate patience, mindfulness, and allow oneself permission to thoroughly experience all the phases of life without fear or repression. Ask yourself, what is the universe trying to teach me right now? The pictures. Be patient and tough. Someday this pain will be useful to you. And cut I can't. So cut the can't part and let it be I can. Thank you, Jai Sachidanand.
Thank you, Jai Sachidanand. So Mukherjee, do you have an example of a speed breaker that came in your life?
Well, I do not have such rich examples to share here, but I absolutely agree that when we are in speed, it is possible that we may avoid the safety. So I think that's what I would like to share, that the speed breakers help us to remember that safety is an important part. as good as speed. Is it okay?
Yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I had a flashback to when we were in India last time. There was these signs that say, you dash, you clash. And it's just wonderful little sayings that you see on the road. And really, really helpful. But that's true. And Kanu Dadaji talked about how there is a real shortage of patience, especially in a world where we get instant gratification. Even if the internet is slow for a few seconds, the psyche immediately responds because we're so accustomed now to having things work instantly. So cultivating patience is not an easy one, but it really becomes helpful when situations arise that require you to be in your center, to think practically, and to behave in a manner that is beneficial to yourself and to others. And unfortunately, we all have situations that arise in our lives more often than we would like. So anybody have any comments on this point? Any ideas, thoughts, experiences? Okay. How am I doing on time, Chandrakanji? We're okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
We have
good.
still 5 minutes.
Okay, good. 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Really?
Okay, we can
Oh my
take 10
gosh.
minutes. No issue.
Okay. So the home is like a garden. As we talked about in Lalabhai Sahib, he wrote home is heaven on earth, the book that he wrote, and he talks about how the home is like a garden, and we should learn to have delight in our diversity and cultivate neutrality within when it comes to neighbors, business partners, colleagues, workers, staff, government officers, and others. Even though, we may like or dislike some more than others, the more neutrality we cultivate within us, our responses become more well thought out and balanced in our life situations. And after learning uniqueness of behavior patterns, we turn to a meaningful interpretation of these patterns, each unique in itself. And I think I was trying to understand where this was coming from, but for me, it meant observing our own behavior rather than focusing on other people's behavior as much. Seeing how we are responding really helps the other person to also immediately become aware of themselves as well. But I think it's meant more to learn to observe others too, and their behaviors and their material nature, so that we can respond more appropriately, learning their codes of conduct as far as their material nature. And a careful study of ourselves will show that all favorable experiences correspond with our positivity and unfavorable ones correspond with our negativity. And this is a profound truth that is tough to digest. And I think it all roots back to the sufferer is at fault is one of Dada Bhagwan's very, very profound statements. It's kind of a backwards way of saying it, but it kind of relates back to that. Correct, Lalabhai Sahib? Would you say that how we respond also corresponds to that timeless truth of the sufferer is at fault?
Yes. Say that helps us because when we accept that the world is our echo, right? So if suffering comes, that means because in the same book, say we undergo a similarity of experiences, how the karma manifests. So by the kind of we undergo similar experiences, incident may not be similar,
Yes.
But
Right.
the nature gives you back in the same coin, not by the same incident, but similarity of experience, similarity of experiencing the suffering, from which
Yes.
we can
Yes.
estimate what kind of sufferings we have imparted to somebody else in the world, sometime, somewhere. But
Yes,
no
sir.
doubt, this is not the he has not initiated it. Initiation. Everybody he says, no, you are whole and soul responsible for
For
yourself.
yourself.
Correct?
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
Lord Krishna, you must have heard this story. Lord Krishna's son was abducted.
Uh-huh.
Oh, there was nobody equally powerful to him in the world till this happened. But because he was a jnani, he could understand, right? And still he could not tell to the queen, the mother of the child. But ultimately, the mother inquired through Narad Muni, they say. He went to Simandar Swami and got the information that the mother in her past birth abducted a baby peacock
Ah.
from the jungle.
Wow.
And the mother followed it and she didn't give. Okay. The mother peacock, peahen, came to the street and cried a lot. For 16 months she was crying, that
What?
peahen. And as a result, in the next birth, her son was abducted. So Simandar Swami told, it is written in the book.
Wow. So even back then, Narad Muni had a connection to Simandar
Yes,
Swami?
he has a connection.
Wow.
He has a permission to go anywhere in the world,
Yes.
the universe.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So he has all
Yes.
universal visa with him. So this is how she could inquire, and Bhagwan told that you will have to wait 16 years. This is the compounded effect of your offense toward the peahen mother. So you have to undergo the similar pain, right?
Wow.
16 years. So this
That's it makes us realize what a tremendous responsibility our human life is.
yes,
Every moment, every passing scene, just a tremendous responsibility.
right.
Thank you for sharing that, Lalabai Sahib. That's a wonderful story. It gives me a lot of insight.
So
Thank you so
useful that
much.
even Lord cannot help. Okay, he cannot trace his own son.
Wonderful.
Well,
But
what the
he
beauty of what we have been given is that we can observe the suffering
yes.
as
And
the
also
observer.
we can remedy it through accepting that sufferer is
Yes.
fault and that we must have done such similar thing. We must have caused similar
Yes.
things to others.
Yes.
We can do
Yes.
pratikraman and pratyakhyan also. And
Yes.
thereway we can invite
Lalabai
or
Sahib,
we can
would you be so
invoke
kind and read the next slide? Because I think we're at the end almost now.
Yeah. This one? All
Yes,
our
please.
negativities?
Yes.
All our negativities are projected in the outside world in the form of enemies, opponents, cynics, and troublemakers. Most harmful enemies are within us, right? If we try to fight them, they will have tighter grip on our necks. They will pulverize our ego and make us helpless. Radical acceptance of ourselves helps us do the same for others. If we make a mental effort to love them, then they start disappearing one by one. This is the secret of creative spiritual path. When we validate unconditionally love and accept others, they are satisfied and will not bother us because we are not bothered by them.
Wow, wow.
Take the
Thanks,
attitude
Sachidanand.
of a student, never be Chandrakant, too
Weak to ask questions.
questions, never know too much to learn
Learn something new.
Okay. So yes,
Maya
this,
Angelou.
Maya Angelou is a famous poet here in the US.
Yeah. In South Africa.
Yeah, from South Africa. Anyway, just thank you so much for sharing, Lullaby. We always get so much insight from your shares. And I'm going to go to the next slide because we are moving towards the end of our session here. The aim of any spiritual practice is to exchange our negativities of hatred, greed, and violence, etc., into positive emotions of love, compassion, charity, humility, etc.
Very
That I
well.
think speaks for itself. Yeah. And wealth gets attracted towards the mind, which is full of compassionate love, mind which becomes serene after progressive extinction of ego. And I think this alludes to our next presentation that Mahatma Nehabin Gandhiji is doing for us, our next session. So there is no penalty in nature except what we deserve. That penalty is also the result of repeated ignorance of nature's warning that the path followed by us is wrong. This is huge because if we don't learn that when we keep suffering the same mistake and we don't take the time to see where we might be going in the wrong direction, that we can't blame anybody but ourselves at that point, because nature is giving us the one. Nature is very kind, will constantly give us warnings. So I think just being aware of ourselves and our own behavior and our responses will help us to mindfully and with correct understanding make U-turns when we need to. The law of retribution is the infinite mercy of nature, because ultimately it is the difficulty which puts us on the right path. So with gratitude, Jai Satchidanand to all. And I'm open to any discussion topics, comments, contributions by anybody. I think we have kind of come to the end of our session here. Does anybody have anything they want to share?
Thank you very much. Participants, you can unmute and you can add or discuss your query here.
Thank you, everybody, for coming and sharing your presence. Whether you share or not, it means a lot that you're here, because it shows that how important it is to you to take that inner journey and to make your presence count on this planet. So, Jai Satchidanand, everybody, thank you for your time.
Very beautiful presentation. Huh? Thank you very much. There are so many
thank you.
positive comments in the chat box. Yes, Lala sir.
So nice. Yes. See, they say anything, see, everybody, they say that everybody is wise in retrospect. So if we think about our sufferings of past, we will find that that was the only route to our present situation. Right? And later schemes are also there, then the sufferings will be returned when you are capable of to suffer. Okay. So timing of suffering also matters a lot. That way nature is very kind. Although they are your own sufferings, but timings. That is why Dada once said that everybody has equal sufferings and equal moments of joy. If you total in the whole at the sum of the life. That is what he said once. I remember still.
So, Lullaby Sahib, on that note, I have heard Kanu Dadaji say that there is an inverse relationship between your material and sensory pleasures and the anand of your inner pure self. And so in today's world that is so geared towards comforts,
Yes.
I think, just being aware of that and not purposely, throwing yourself into intense comfort can help us to maintain more of that inner inner bliss of the pure
Yes.
self.
Now we'll see with, say, n number of gadgets, say one or the other gadget will be out of order. So we'll be worrying about that gadget. By the time it is on track, another gadget will go out of order. So
true.
So Dada once said that the suffering source of suffering will be the same from where you derived pleasure. That is also once he has explained.
Yes.
The source
You
of
know,
pleasure.
and that also brings us back to how we have to be so careful not to ridicule, not to make fun, because it seems like in today's world, people use that as a crutch to forget their problems, but they don't realize what a horrible seed that they're planting as what's going to come back as a boomerang effect for themselves at that point. Very critical point. Yeah. And it's so easy because I find that it seems to be something that people do all the time in today's world. I find it puzzling, like, because it's so harmful. It's so incredibly harmful. It must be a coping mechanism of some sort. But with Dadaji's Gnan, we know it's very unhealthy. So for our well-being in the long run.
You keep it in abeyance, right? If I have a trouble and I go to movie, I put the trouble waiting for 3 hours. Again, the trouble will ride me.
It's true.
Instead you say, give that time in attending that trouble, no? That is the...
We can run, but we cannot hide, as they say in English here.
Yes, yes, correct. Very good.
Jai Sachidanand.
Very nice. Thank you very much, Shailabenji.
Thank you.
And participants, whenever any negativity takes place in our life, we have the recording of this session. We can refer to it any moment. It is on YouTube. So thank you very much once again for joining. Thank you, Shailaben. Thank you, Lara sir. Have a wonderful time.
So nice.
And
Yes.
Jai Sachidanand. Very humbly.
Next session by Neha Gandhi.
The next session will be economic activity, secrets of prosperity. So do join to this. Thank you very much. Thank you.